So guys, we got some news that Heroic Plus is going to be coming in Phase 2, also known as the Titan Rune Heroic Dungeons. Now you might be wondering what exactly is different than the regular Heroics. How hard is it? Is it worth doing at all? That's exactly what we're going to go through today. Now the reason you might want to run Heroic Plus or a Titan Rune Heroic Dungeon is because bosses in Titan Rune Heroics are going to drop 10-man Neo Epics in addition to their regular loot. So that means Malygos, Sartherion, and all of the Naxxramas bosses, their drops are going to be moved into this Heroic Plus in addition to what the Heroics were dropping already. Now when I ran this, we saw some pretty sweet drops, and of course the last boss of each Titan Rune Heroic drops a piece of tier gear. It's going to be the heroes, not Valorous, since once again this is 10 men. Also, once Phase 2 drops, the daily heroic quest giver that rewards valor emblems will be upgraded and now reward conquest emblems, meaning players are going to want to run the daily heroic, so why not just make it a Heroic Plus? So to get started, you just need to enter a heroic dungeon and have the whole group right click and channel on this mysterious object until you see a glow appear on it, sort of like that moon glow from Honoring Your Ancestors event, if you remember that. You can also look at monsters and see that they have a new permanent buff, which will then, of course, show that you're in Heroic Plus. It's going to be different, though, depending on which dungeon you're in. Now, within Utgarde Keep and Utgarde Pinnacle, this buff is going to be called the Frost Rune. This is going to increase damage by 30% and health by 100%, which is pretty much the same across almost all dungeons, that specific buff, and gives melee attacks a chance to glaciate a random nearby target. Now, this causes the target to generate a sort of path of frost wherever they walk. It's going to cause a move speed slow and also periodic frost damage. You can have 5 stacks of this magic effect once it goes on you initially. And honestly, in my opinion, it is not worth dispelling if you're a paladin. Just move around and the stacks actually drop really quickly. If you just stand there, the stacks aren't going to go away. Now, typically, you know, you're going to want to move away from your party when you start to move, right? Because you're leaving behind a path of frost, right? And so typically just kind of move in the correct direction. If you do stand in it, you will take a lot of damage actually. So make sure to actually move when you get this debuff to have a teammate die because they decided to just stand still. And if you're liking the video so far, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe for more WoW content. So the Violet Hold, Oculus, and Nexus also share a rune called the Arcane Rune, which increases damage by 30% and health by 100%, and all attacks have a chance to summon mirror images of the caster or the attacker, right? Now these images will die in one hit, so an auto attack, whatever instant cast, but these mirror images do full damage and the damage adds up. So I would say take care of them quickly. AoE does not work on them. You actually have to immediately switch and use an ability on them or auto attack. I would say as a healer, it's easy to get overwhelmed because, you know, these are heroic monsters and a lot of them are making copies. And what's pretty cool about this is it also applies to bosses. So make sure to switch targets so that, like, anyone can do it. Just even the healer, I was the healer, just auto attack. You know, switch targets to that mirror image fast. Honestly, if a boss duplicates, you could wipe, I think, if nobody does anything to destroy it. So pretty cool mechanic, actually, kind of fun. These mirror images, they all just cast arcane missiles, so they're all ranged. So in Izal Narub and Old Kingdom, these two dungeons have a buff called Shadow Rune once activated. It increases damage by, you guessed it, 30% and health by 100. It also gives them a chance to web wrap a victim. So lots of web wraps here. You basically just need to destroy them as fast as you can. And I would say my personal tip here, having lots of pets, or if you have a mage, use mirror image, they can actually eat that web wrap, as in, you know, it activates the web wrap is shot at a ghoul instead of a party member. And if, you know, if a hunter pet takes it instead of a party member, it's much less impactful. And so having hunters and unholy death knights and, you know, things that can soak these web wraps will make this easier. Now, when I was running it, it kind of seemed like a bug, but the web wrap almost always went onto the Death Knight Ghoul. I don't know why, probably a bug. It'll probably be more random on release, but something I noticed. But I think having extra characters in general is a good piece of advice if you want to run Heroic Plus on those two dungeons. The next rune is Gundrak and Draktheron Keep. These are going to have the Blood Rune. This increases damage by 30% and health by 100%. It also grants 100% lifesteal when standing in Blood of the Loa. So they're going to basically periodically create these Blood of the Loa pools below them. Basically, whatever mob created that, you have to move them out of that AoE because they're going to get a ton of lifesteal. Absolute must to just move them. This is kind of on the tank to do this. So whenever you run Gundrak and Draktheron Keep, just have a good tank that's aware of this Blood Rune and can respond accordingly. Halls of Stone and Halls of Lightning actually has a different kind of effect. So this is the Titan Rune. It's actually a 5% damage buff instead of a 30, and instead of a 100% health buff, a 190% health buff. So way more. And also they give you, the players, a debuff, which can stack, called Titanic Power. It's going to increase damage taken by 2% and damage done by 1% per stack, and it just keeps stacking with more procs. It does get removed from effects that make you invulnerable, like Divine Protection, Ice Block, whatever. And I think it's kind of nice to increase your damage done because everything has 190% increased health. So kind of nice to actually have a kind of fun thing like that. But if you get too many stacks, you're going to start taking kind of a lot of damage. So, just kind of balance it out. I think this will be just fine. Now, with Stratholme, you kind of have a fun mechanic. I don't find this one hard at all. Probably the easiest of all, if you ask me. This is the Plague Rune. This gives you 30% increased damage, 100% increased health to all your monsters. But what's cool is that they basically, when they hit you, it infects you with a zombie plague, which will eventually turn you into a zombie after about 60 seconds. Now, what I noticed is that shields that absorb damage will prevent the zombie plague from even being applied, because it has to be a hit, right? It's also a disease, so any class that can cleanse disease can remove it. Priests, paladins, or shaman are all great for this. Priest shields will prevent application in the first place. Sacred shield from paladin can prevent it on one player. And cleansing totem from shaman will be a godsend to help make it very, very easy to make sure pretty much nobody ever gets turned into a zombie in the first place. If you don't have any of those, you also are going to be provided with over 20 stacks of Stratholme Holy Water located right at the start of the instance. You can divide that amongst your group, but to be honest, I'm not sure that's going to be enough to last the entire instance because there's zombies pretty much throughout almost all of it, and you're kind of just sitting around. So I would say, honestly, you should probably take at least one class that can remove diseases if you are planning to Heroic Plus Culling of Stratholme. If you do somehow become a zombie after having the disease for a minute, then you get a whole new set of abilities, just like zombies from the Wrath pre-patch event. Obviously, if you become a zombie in this context, you shouldn't start attacking your group, right? I don't see that going very well for you if you decide like, oh, I'm a zombie now, I'm going to take you guys down. You're probably just best to isolate yourself, and then you have the ability to just zombie explode, in the corner away from everyone, and then your team can just res you and you can keep progressing through the dungeon. Now, after running all these dungeons, I honestly have to say, even with the blue gear we got on the PTR, these dungeons are really, really easy. A group of players who really know how to just play the game aren't going to have any trouble at all with Heroic Plus. The main difference between this new mode and the old mode, honestly, is that this one's just going to take twice as long because of the 100% increased health. Other than that, though, I think these new mechanics really aren't that dangerous unless you are seriously zoned out and not paying attention at all. I really like the changes, honestly, because I like running dungeons and I like leveling alts. So I think this will be a good change to keep these heroics active and relevant, dropping that increased loot, making it a little bit more interesting. But with phase 2 around the corner, there are some things that might be going away. So check out my video about the things to finish in phase 1 before they're removed. I'll see you there.